Okay, here we go, folks. It's me. I'm back. Yay! What's going on, Liar Bliss over on YouTube? Ah, there's Rumble. Rumble showed up. Okay, here we go. Sending out the things. Here is the the text message going out right now. If you're not getting this text message, make sure to text the word Canary to the number 877-740-3226. That's Canary to 877-740-3226. That's just to make sure that you never miss a show. Okay, with Twitch. Whoa, Twitch is popping off. We got Santa. Santa wears brown. I don't know what that means. I'm kind of scared of saying it out loud. But thank you, Santa, for being here. Shanovision, Datalorians on YouTube. Stefan, Night of the Hungry Panda. Okay, getting the gang together here. Let's see here. Email is out. Text message is out. Social media is out. There we go. We're getting ready to go, folks. Well, thank you for your patience, everybody. Okay. I have confirmation. Santa Wears Brown is a reference to the UPS guy. Okay, that makes so much more sense, and I appreciate. You know what? I made buddies with my UPS guy a couple weeks ago. Cool guy. As we know, I live in the middle of nowhere, and so the guy has to drive very far when I order packages. And you know what? He's a hero. He is a hero. So to all the UPS drivers out there, you're probably not listening to this live, and it won't be on the podcast version, but just spiritually know that you are appreciated. And congratulations on the raise and all the benefits you guys got recently. All right, we're going to get the show started here, folks. Just a couple quick reminders. Let's see here. Join the newsletter. You can do that at canarycry.party. Also, my birthday was over the weekend. Thank you very much. 1 year older, another year more tired. But I am trying to collect some producership so that we can executive produce No Agenda. That's right. We want to executive produce the the Podfather, the show that taught us how to do the value for value model. We owe a lot to them, sort of as unofficial mentors and such. And so I would like to executive produce that show, both for the value that they've brought to my life this year, but also to get the word out about the Burning Man episode and the show in general. So if you want to help out with that, that would be very cool. I put a button in the email. I put a link in the text message, and I'm sure I'll talk about it again on the show. But all right, folks, let's get this party started. Let's go.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is October 23rd, 2023. We are live to tape on episode 680, and today, Collide and Conquer. Signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy Basil, and you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, director of the Age of Deceit films, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from California to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And today's emergent phenomena, hashtag Fallout. Fallout. I know there's nuclear fallout. Now I feel like there's cyber fallout, you know?
Political fallout.
Political, yeah. Spreading around.
Fallout from me missing a whole week of shows.
Yes, and the fallout being the lingering effect or result of a set of consequences, not necessarily the radioactive particles, although the analogy can be made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it can. That's the thing about analogies. They can all be made.
Metaphor is a weapon.
Okay. Well, we got a great show today, Guns. I'm excited to be back. We might as well get that disclaimer out of the way, huh?
Yep, let's do it.
And just for all the content moderators and censorship managers out there, be they robots or humans, everything you hear on this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral and ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. We're good boys. All right, YouTube, we're good boys.
That's right. And why don't I give you a rundown, Gonzo?
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
The fallout continues as bosses and workers grapple with the fallout of speaking up about Israel-Hamas war. We will see the working culture of the U.S. and around the globe was shaken during COVID. And yes, even during World War III, we are set up to fail as far as keeping jobs are concerned. Then Gons will be going down the rabbit hole as it pertains to Baron Rothschild and his, I don't know, his motivations, his high ambitions. You know, you can say what you want about the Rothschilds. They are ambitious people. Then we'll be checking in with Flippy. I saw the creator. That's right. I'll tell you all about it. And then we'll be checking in with the network state. Yes, the new and improved world order that we have been talking about for so many years. Not just the Illuminati, but the total dissolution of the nation state, the very concept and how that is being furthered in the media, thanks to everything and everyone. Then we'll be checking out Basil's Bunker. That's right. Bug out bags and survival training go mainstream. Thank you, Wall Street Journal. And then, of course, the end of the show, checking in with those mummy penguins. You know them, you love them. They're a fixture here on the show, and they are back in the news. But first, Gons, our lead stories.
And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars.
Just merely mentioning Israel or questioning in any way Israel's policies is not the same thing as being pro-Hamas.
Zionist!
Epic. We have a
Still throws me off, the little edit we had to do, but that's we'd rather get thrown off during the show than getting thrown off YouTube.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was thinking about that too, where we have to, you know, a lot of people censored themselves during COVID on YouTube, and especially YouTube, right? You couldn't say, you know, people were like, oh, the koof, and like all this stuff. That was just a small glimpse of, I feel like, what we're about to see more of. But the PSYOP is strong. The PSYOP is strong. And to sort of give us an indicator of such things, we have the newstribune.com here. I don't know who newstribune.com is, but they mirrored an Associated Press article, an AP article. So that's why I have it here. It's a headline, Bosses, Workers Grapple with Fallout of Speaking Up About Israel-Hamas War. And I like this article because it summarizes the fallout, the effects. You know, it's not so much about, or it's not just about what's going on, you know, boots on the ground in Gaza, in Israel, but it's also about how this thing reverberates throughout the world and shakes everything up. So, you know,
and I think that's kind of where you and I have been focused during this whole thing. The internet is absolutely flooded with horrible things.
It has become the war, the battlefield.
Yeah, and everybody has their hot take. Everybody's taking sides, and it's less about who's right, in our opinion, and more about what does this mean for culture? What is the programming going to look like in the future? And how is this crisis not going to waste as far as the powers that be who want to stay in power?
Yeah, it's funny because, don't let a crisis go to waste. At this point, that's on the fringes. I feel like all the crises are manufactured to begin with. You know, and that's almost like an excuse. Like, let's not let it go to waste. You know, it's like, well,
you're a crazy conspiracy.
You're right. Okay. Well, it says here, according to AP, Starbucks accused a union representing thousands of its baristas of damaging the brand and endangering coworkers with a pro-Palestinian tweet. The CEO of a prominent tech conference resigned amid backlash for his public statements suggesting Israel was committing war crimes. Company bosses vowed never to hire members of a university's student group that condemned Israel. Meanwhile, Islamic rights advocates say much of the corporate response has minimized the suffering in Gaza, where thousands have died in Israeli airstrikes, and created an atmosphere of fear for workers who want to express support for Palestinians. Jewish groups have criticized tepid responses or slow reactions to the October 7th Hamas rampage that killed 1,400 people in Israel and triggered the latest war. The fallout from the Israel-Hamas war has spilled into workplaces everywhere, as top leaders of prominent companies weigh in with their views while workers complain their voices are not being heard. People from all ranks have been called out for speaking too forcefully or not forcefully enough, making it nearly impossible to come up with a unifying message when passions run deep on all sides. Hello.
What is this obsession with your voice being heard at work? I mean, I understand if it's considering working conditions or safety conditions or whatever, fighting for the workers' rights, whatever that, I see that. But to have your voice be heard about your poorly informed
Middle
ideas
East,
about
geopolitics.
Why would you think that it's your right to be heard at work about that?
Yeah, go back to the line there and start, go back to your work. Doing your actual
point
work.
Of privilege.
Yeah, of course.
Points of privilege, Guns. Yeah. Our entire job is to be heard about our ill-informed
That's
ideas
true.
about
that is
geopolitics.
True. That is true.
Easy for us to say. I
know.
get it.
Many U.S. corporations have strong ties with Israel, particularly among tech and financial firms that have operations and employees in the country. Executives at J.P. Morgan Chase & Co., Goldman Sachs, Google, and Meta were among dozens who swiftly condemned the Hamas attacks and expressed solidarity with the Israeli people in public statements, social media posts, or even corporate earning calls. Yeah, okay. So they're bringing it up during earnings call. I guess it's on everyone's mind. Many pledged millions of dollars in humanitarian aid and detailed efforts to safeguard employees in Israel. Some chief executives poured out their personal anguish in a LinkedIn post and a letter to employees. Heiser CEO Albert Bourla said he has been constantly on the phones with friends and relatives in Israel and expressed his horror at hearing of civilians of all ages targeted and killed in cold blood, hostages taken and tortured. He implored employees to check on each other and said Heiser launched a humanitarian relief campaign. Quote, "It's not enough to condemn these actions. We ourselves must take action," Bourla wrote. Yes, this is making Bourla and Heiser look like they are, trying to do good works, and it comes at an opportune time because Pfizer's not doing so hot. Pfizer is just looking at the stock price alone. It's been a steady decline since let's see, what is this? December of last year. All of 2023 has just been down.
Oh yeah, it's been hilarious. There's videos and comments. I think it was last week, where the Pfizer had a big, all hands meeting where they were laying people off because of their problems, and the executives were laughing and being disrespectful and telling jokes as they're like laying people off. It was a whole thing, which, it's about time people kind of saw the true countenance of the leadership over at Pfizer there.
Yeah. Well, it's just going to change and morph and go into something different. Backlash against opposing views has been swift, including responses from a tweet. Oh, tweet? What are you talking about, AP? We're in the ex-post age. From Web Summit CEO Patty Cosgrave, suggesting Israel was committing war crimes. Quote, "I'll never attend, sponsor, speak at any of your events again," former Facebook executive David Marcus stated on X, formerly known as Twitter. There you go. Faced with a growing boycott to next month's Web Summit, a prominent European gathering of thousands of tech leaders, Cosgrave resigned Saturday, saying his, quote, "personal comments have become a distraction from the event and our team, our sponsors, our startups, and the people who attend." end quote. His resignation came a few days after he released a long message denouncing the Hamas attacks and apologizing for the timing of his initial tweet, But companies continued withdrawing from the conference, including Google, Meta, German tech conglomerate Siemens, and U.S. chip maker Intel. And then they list a bunch of stuff here, just CEOs of different companies, either denouncing or, blaming Israel, just saying all these things. It's very fascinating to see a corporate cancel culture that's the West is doing to themselves.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing I think about this is during the pandemic, there was sort of the cancel culture of anti-vaxxers, where if you came out, you said something bad about the vax at work, your job was at risk, you were shunned, and that came from the top down, from the executive down. In this case, we have sort of a turnaround in that it's the workers who are canceling the executives for higher level people up in the company. They say something wrong or distasteful or just something you don't disagree with, and you have the workers kind of snapping back at their bosses. It's yet to see exactly what the fallout from this would be, but it's kind of a fun thing to watch, considering we are amidst the sort of intentional dismantling of the power of the American worker.
Yeah.
They gained raises, they found better jobs, they got promotions for working through the pandemic, and then we've seen the global economy sort of piece by piece dismantling the Lego set that workers were finally feeling good about their lives. And so now you have the workers kind of lashing back on the social level as far as their leaders are concerned. The war continues.
Yeah. The article, again, the article tries to, provide all sides and different types of situations here. They, highlight a woman named Isra Abu Hasna, data scientist in the Chicago area, who, showed her support for Palestine. She's a Palestinian American, and, she's afraid that she can't get another job and things of that nature. It's my identity, she said. What good am I in my job if I compromise my own morals and ethics? Which is interesting. I don't know that your nationality has anything too much to do with your morals and ethics, but okay. One of the biggest disputes erupted at Starbucks after Starbucks Workers United, a union representing 9,000 workers at more than 360 U.S. stores, tweeted, quote, solidarity with Palestine 2 days after the Hamas attack. The tweet was taken down within 40 minutes, but the company said it led to more than 1,000 complaints, acts of vandalism, and angry confrontations in its stores. So It's so interesting how you can make a social media post and you have these like physical altercations, interactions in the actual Starbucks stores across the nation. It's like this weird, I don't know, it's just a weird thing. I mean, I suppose it's obvious with social media and what it is, but it's just strange to me where it's like you do something and then all of a sudden it activates everybody.
It's kind of interesting. This might not be the most important comment to make, but it does strike me as fascinating. When coffee shops first became a thing, I think it was in France, where these coffee shops first were established. They were kind of used as meeting places for thinkers and all
like
the
pre-social media.
What's that?
Pre-social media, social square type of thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like 1400, I don't know what it was, like 1600s or something. Anyways, it was kind of generally regarded as a place where like smarty pants would go and sit and talk, and all of their, like Twitter, but just with coffee.
Right.
And then at least in America, coffee shops just became like gas stations for people, and kind of lost any sort of, I don't know, real cultural sort of relevance in I don't know, at least academia or thinking. But we have here sort of a throwback to the olden days where what happens in the coffee shops is reflective of the most important topics of the day.
I mean, you could be wearing a shirt with the Star of David on it or something and walk in and it'll be awkward. Or somebody might stare at, it's just, it's such a crazy mind control thing. And of course, Starbucks being a back to that reference from Fight Club, where there's a Starbucks in every scene, and sort of the marketing mind control that was implanted in that film, and it makes sense that it would be appearing here too. So there's that Starbucks issue. I thought this was interesting here. As the humanitarian catastrophe deepened in Gaza, more company leaders addressed the situation, including Accenture CEO Julie Sweet, who said the company was splitting $3 million between Israel's Magen David Adom Emergency Services and the Palestinian Red Crescent. So she's splitting the money. I don't know what the percentages are. She may not make that public, but that's one way to do it. That's one way to try to avoid any kind of canceling from either side, is to, hey, here's $3 million, let's split it. But companies that kept a low profile have gotten pushback. Allison Grinberg-Funes, who is Jewish, wrote in a LinkedIn post that she was disappointed. Again, Basil, this is going to trigger you. Hold on, let me show this on the screen. So yeah. Allison Grinberg-Funes, who is Jewish, wrote in a LinkedIn post that she was disappointed by the failure of her colleagues to reach out immediately after the Hamas attacks.
Reach out to who? Out to her?
To her, yes. She's upset at her colleagues. While they eventually reached out, Grinberg-Funes said in an interview with the Associated Press, so AP is interviewing this woman, that she remains disappointed her employer, Liberty Mutual, didn't publicly condemn the attacks. The Boston-based content designer for the insurance company said this silence is part of a wider, quote, lack of support for the Jewish community that she and her friends have observed in the workplace. Quote, we want to know that our lives matter. Ding, 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 ding. I think that kind of gives it away. As much as the other employees that have been shown support. So is there, okay. Said Grinberg-Funes, 33 years old, who has family and friends in Israel. Liberty Mutual did not respond. So, okay. So again, there's all these little hints and things in here, and we're not trying to condemn this woman or anything specifically. It's just the whole concept of highlighting her particular gripe with Liberty Mutual and making it a punchline almost. Look at these corporates. You could say something and you say the wrong thing. It's bad for you. Your CEOs have to step down. People are abandoning your product or whatever. But also,
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of church.
Good analogy.
Church leadership pretty much my whole life. And, in church leadership, you hopefully your church pastors, your whatever, associate pastors, they're making a point. If something happens in one of the congregants' lives, like it's a big deal to reach out and support them, whatever it is. Maybe somebody got their car broken into or is going through a divorce or something. It's very important. And unfortunately, as a young pastor, I kind of learned this the hard way, that like if you aren't actively reaching out to people who are suffering,
going through something,
like that's a failure. That's a failure of the pastorate at that point.
Right.
But it's kind of the same process here with corporate Liberty Mutual.
Same standards.
Insurance.
Yeah, same standards being expected. Yeah.
And people are seeing their employer as if they are like a church, like responsible for their spiritual well-being. I think it's a very interesting insight in sort of the secular corporate sort of mythological lives people are living, that like, hey, if I'm working for a big company, that big company is not only my employer and the source of my income, but also source of my spiritual, support. They're my support system.
Right.
It's really sort of extraordinarily sad to see.
Yeah.
And it's not, nobody's writing it down so outright, but it's so obvious that people are seeing their big corporate Goliath employers as their like spiritual home, not just their sort of financial home.
Well, that's the thing. I nowadays, especially with the focus on money and monetary, everything, it becomes the hand that feeds becomes your provider for everything, whether it's the government or the company you're working for. And it's almost, in terms of church, that's a good point, because in church leadership, there is the income part of it. And so
Yeah.
it makes it a very church looking like the world looking like the church. You know, it's more so that I think fallen human nature just tends to do certain things. And so whether you're in the church setting or in the corporate setting, there are certain expectations and things that
Just another example of that. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's all right.
I didn't mean to do that. Another example of that is healthcare. It blows my mind. I may have mentioned this on the show before, but Guns, I believe, I don't know if this is necessarily something that you don't want it said on the show, but your wife is a very employed person.
She is.
And so things like healthcare and stuff, you know, you kind of have that traditional sort of corporate infrastructure for that.
Yeah.
But I do not. I've been paying cash for my own healthcare forever, for years now. And I talked to people who kind of experienced transitions of employment over the pandemic, and people who didn't want to leave their jobs even though they're being treated like trash. And I was like, well, what are you doing? Why don't you get new employment? They're like, yeah, but the health insurance. I'm like, you can just buy health insurance. You don't need your corporate daddy to give you health insurance. And these people had never known, nobody ever told them that they can just purchase health insurance. They thought it's like
not as good, man. Not as many guarantees, bro.
Oh no, it's not great. Trust me. And,
well, not
anyways,
that the corporate versions are. You know, it's
no. I mean, the whole American system's pretty whack. But I mean, the very idea that they did not know you could insure yourself, which further sort of strapped them spiritually and financially and lifestylely to their big corporate employer. Just for lack of knowledge. It really blew my mind.
Really what they do for you, the corporations, they do the accounting for you and the taxes. That's the real big thing. They just take it right out of your paycheck. They just take it right out of your paycheck. You don't even have to think about it. That
is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
take us down the rabbit hole, Guns.
Let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit.
Come, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Now, if you're in the conspiracy community or, you know, communities, I don't know, just in the world of conspiracy, if you looked into it, you'd likely come across names like the Rothschilds due to their dynastic genealogy, you know, starting during the French War and taking over the UK. And there's this big history. What was that?
Just quick comment, just because I think we might need to start thinking about it this way. It's not a conspiracy-y thing to have heard about the Rothschilds. You can just be, I don't know, a student of history.
Yeah.
And just a regular student of history. And this is all extremely interesting.
Right.
As far as how human history has unfolded for a couple hundred years.
Yeah, well, you're right. So, yes, the Rothschilds, known just throughout history as sort of royalty almost, you know, very wealthy family, or at least recent history. But more so in the conspiracy world, if you came in contact with the Rothschild family legacy through that lens, it's usually shaded in a negative light. It's like, oh, look at these guys. They're part of the banking system and they control everything. And that's sort of the narrative that gets thrown out there, which is interesting nowadays because you and I have noticed, Basil, where a lot of times if you're a conspiracy theorist, mainstream media will say, oh, see, these people are anti-Semitic.
Right.
You know, without really qualifying it. But I think that was the big sort of umbrella thing of like, see, they hate the Rothschilds and the Rothschilds were Jewish. And so therefore they're anti-Semitic. That was their logic. But I saw this posted on X, Twitter, and I went down the rabbit trail to just verify a couple of things. Because, you know, you see something on the internet, on social media, and you have to check. So I saw an article, you know, one of these news clippings from a couple hundred years ago saying that the Rothschilds, specifically Baron Rothschild, had purchased Jerusalem and wanted to be king and all this kind of stuff. And, you know how newspapers were and are, you know, they can be kind of sensational or not real or not true. I looked into it. There were several newspapers in the 1820s This particular one is from New Bern, North Carolina, Saturday, December 5th, 1829. And it talks about the King Rothschild, how Baron Rothschild, the Jewish banker, wanted to purchase Jerusalem. And so it's kind of a, it's like, okay, so, okay, all right. So he did want to be a king of sorts of Israel, which is a very crazy kind of idea, but it's like, oh, okay, all right.
And kind of a quick mention too, while you tend to a screaming baby, that 1820s, that's, I believe, I'll check my work here in a second and correct myself if I need to, but I believe that's way, way earlier than the advent of yellow journalism. Yellow journalism meaning like opinion journalism or activist journalism or clickbait journalism. These super early newspapers, this was before the sort of idea that a reporter is trying to deliver a message instead of the news was even a thing. So, you could see if somebody wrote today, Baron Rothschild wants to be a king of Jerusalem, that would be like an insane article on like Stormfront or like some horrible website or, something. But 1820s, I mean, that's just the news.
Right. Okay, so it says here, King Rothschild, the following curious extract is from a private letter from Smyrna. I think there's a fold in the scan here, so it's kind of hard to read some parts of it. We give it without note or comment. The confidence of the children of Israel in the words of the prophet has not been in vain. The temple of Solomon will be restored in all splendor. Sounds like a Freemason wrote this. Baron Rothschild, who was accused of having gone to Rome to adjure the faith of his fathers, has merely passed through the city in his way to Constantinople, where he is about to negotiate a loan with the Porte. It's stated on good authority that Baron Rothschild has engaged to furnish to the Sultan the enormous sum of 350 million piasters, I don't know, at three installments without interest on condition of the, boy, that one's hard right there. I don't know. Condition of the something engaging, the Sultan engaging for himself and his successor to yield to Baron Rothschild forever the sovereignty of Jerusalem and the territory of the ancient Palestine, which was occupied by the 12 tribes. The Baron's intention is to grant the rich Israelites who are scattered about in different parts of the world portions of that fine country where he proposes to establish, oh my gosh, I don't know what that word is, seniorities, and to give to them, as far as possible, their aunt and sacred laws. And then I don't know, annuit and sacred laws, maybe. I don't know. There's a fold in the thing.
It's old-timey.
It's old-timey. So anyway, and it talks about how, the glory to the great Baron Rothschild, who makes use of his ingots and, he's been like the king of Israel or whatever. God, very interesting, kind of interesting, especially in the context of Scripture, Daniel 11:39, where it talks about, he will attack the strongest fortresses, and it's in the context of war in that region. And with the help of a foreign god, and will greatly honor those who acknowledge him. Interesting, isn't it? Making them rulers over many and distributing the land for a price. So kind of a similar deal there, where he's distributing land after he conquers the surrounding enemies. Similar type of language here from this 1829 news clipping, which is, just an interesting little parallel there.
It was interesting last week, again, a YouTube channel was kind of making the rounds on social media, and this was the actual Rothschild's YouTube channel. Now, it's not, Rothschild, news YouTube channel or something. It is the YouTube channel for an estate that they own, just a gigantic estate, I think somewhere in Europe, of course, that they turned into a museum, and it, holds all the Rothschild history. And, so it's kind of a very clean cut corporate video giving the history on the Rothschilds, told by the Baroness herself. And extremely interesting to watch the videos, about 20 minutes long. And she's just giving an accurate historical account of the Rothschilds, her family. And it's kind of both mind numbing and also your jaw kind of hits the floor, because really the vastness and insanity of their wealth is kind of put on display. But she puts it in this context of like, yes, my family has a very interesting history. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
And tells the story about, the Rothschild becoming the first peerage, a Jewish peerage person in parliament or something. I'm sorry, I watched it last week. I'm trying to kind of go off the dome here, but he was the first Jew ever allowed to be called Lord Rothschild.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he got accepted into the whole monarchy system type, or at least he got to mingle with the elite of the European elite, so to speak.
And interesting detail here, which I will mention a couple times for various reasons. When the Balfour Declaration was printed and sent and signed, which is the document that made the intentions of Great Britain sort of known, that they wanted to start working on creating the nation of Israel. This was in 1917, a year after Northern Ireland, by the way. We'll get into that. It was sent to Mr. Rothschild, like to whatever the current patriarch Mr. Rothschild was. So the king, the crown was like, okay, we'll make a state of Israel. Who should we tell? Well, tell the Rothschild guy. He's the one who needs to know this. And the way they tell the story on the YouTube channel, again, they're just telling it as like very straightforward history of their family. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is like everything everybody's been talking about. It's right here.
Yeah, and speaking of the family there, and the lineage here will end up back at the Baroness. We'll get back to it, but I wanted to run through just a series of Jerusalem Post articles, and I looked it up. Jerusalem Post is actually it was founded in 1932 during the British Mandate of Palestine by Gershon Agron as the Palestine Post. And it was changed to Jerusalem Post in 1950. But about 90 years old, little over 90 years old. So it's kind of like the New York Post in terms of age. So it's been around, and they have a series of articles that, of course, highlight the Rothschilds. This first one was published June 13th, 2021. The truth about the Rothschild Foundation. The Rothschilds, separately and together, are Israel's most consistent supporters and fund a myriad of projects, including one for children traumatized by war. Which I thought was kind of interesting, because it's like, they're treating the children traumatized by war. Well, in order to keep that program going, what do you need? Wars. We need more wars to make sure we have traumatized children. We can't. Okay, so it says here, got some highlights. The best known Jewish family inside and outside the Jewish world are the Rothschilds, who separately and together have given thousands of millions of dollars. Not billions, thousands of millions.
Is this in the old-timey newspaper?
No, this is Jerusalem Post 2021.
Oh, what?
Maybe the author time traveled. They just plucked him right out of the 1820s.
I was thinking, like,
the same guy.
If it's from the 1820s and they're saying thousands of millions, they're like, these peasants can't even comprehend a billion. We need to... thousands of millions of dollars for agricultural, industrial, medical, legislative, judicial, social, welfare, educational, and cultural causes in the various countries in which they live, with the state of Israel as their most common beneficiary in all of the above spheres. Kind of sounds like the list of things the Watchers taught humanity, like all the things that you covered in the book of Enoch there, chapter 1. Or not chapter 1, but the first book of Enoch. Moreover, members of the Rothschild family have been consistently funding projects in Israel for more than 140 years and continue to do so to this day. Not everything they do is visible, period. Oh, really? It's funny because, in the Jerusalem Post, they make it's a positive thing. They don't always, the people receiving the money, they don't always know that it's coming from the Rothschilds. They want to stay behind the scenes. But they helped build the Knesset building, the Supreme Court building, the Sisera Golf Club, the National Park there. And I think they were... Yeah, they built the government. They literally built the government.
The government, yeah. It says here, not only do the Rothschilds sign checks but take a hands-on role in projects that specifically speak to their hearts and minds. Baron Edmund de Rothschild from the French branch of the international banking family was the first of the Rothschilds to take an interest in the Jewish homeland. In 1880, he and his brother Alfonso began supporting Russian Jews who were targeted for pogroms. In 1882, he reached the conclusion that the best place for them to start their lives anew was Palestine. An ardent Zionist, Baron Rothschild bought up land in Palestine and founded and or supported settlements such as Metula, Rosh Pina, Zikron Yaakov, Markaretz, Batia, Rishon LeZion, and others. In 1923, he founded the Palestine Jewish Colonization Association. The name is just wild. In 2020, 100 years ago, Basil, can you imagine somebody, a Rothschild coming out? Let me create the Palestine Jewish Colonization Association, everybody. Through which he entrusted his son James to. And then they have some different parts of the map there. Because of his unstinting generosity, Baron Edmund de Rothschild, was known as the benefactor. Yeah. What's up, buddy? What's up, buddy?
What's up, dude? What's up, little baby? You want some juice, dude?
The Edmund de Rothschild Foundation, which operates within the framework of the international network of Edmund de Rothschild Foundations that support causes worldwide, was established by another Baron Edmund de Rothschild who had been named for his grandfather and who can be credited with helping to create the underpinnings for various Israeli industries, without which Israel would not have reached the status of startup nation. I think that's what some of the same sentiment that you were seeing in that YouTube channel there. And this is where it gets to the main point here. Following the death of the younger Baron Edmund de Rothschild in 1997, the joint chairmanship of the foundation was passed on to his son and daughter-in-law, Baron Benjamin de Rothschild and Baroness Ariane de Rothschild. So Baron Benjamin de Rothschild has passed away since. I think he passed away a couple years ago from a heart attack, which is kind of interesting too. So now Baroness Ariane de Rothschild pretty much took over everything. And I have a couple other articles that talks about that. There's one here that was published. This was before the husband passed away, from Jerusalem Post, September of 2018, a latter-day Rothschild. And it's all about Baroness. And let's see. In the case of Baroness Ariane de Rothschild, why did I highlight that? That's not what I wanted to read. Down here, her short but exclusive interview with the Jerusalem Post is primarily related to the multi-layered Rothschild philanthropies. But here and there, a question allied to her profession creeps into the conversation, such as her forecast for the future Bitcoin takeover. Bitcoin, Basil. She was talking Bitcoin in 2018. It's inevitable, she opines, adding that it's the best interest of central banks to go into cryptocurrency. Quote, banks are being increasingly asked to trade in KYC, know your customer. Basil, you know what's happening with the markets like right now. Crypto is pumping. BlackRock is getting ready for their ETF. The whole thing is happening. And I think Israel might be a big player in that without really telling the public yet. So during this article, Benjamin de Rothschild was involved in a land dispute. Some people said that he owes them millions of shekels, and he denied it. And then they get into the list of things that they've, basically funded. And here's, I think, would be interesting to see, Basil, what, the videos that you watched from the Baroness Ariane might come into play. There are two, what happened to my thing? This browser keeps refreshing every few minutes. There are two main Rothschild umbrella foundations operating in Israel. One is known as Yad Hanadiv, which acts on behalf of a number of Rothschild family trusts, continuing the tradition of support for the national revival of the Jewish people in its historic homeland, and was initiated in the second half of the 19th century by Baron Edmund de Rothschild, known as the benefactor, or Hanadiv in Hebrew. And the other is the Edmund de Rothschild Sisera Foundation, which was founded by his grandson of the same name, while the senior Rothschild laid the groundwork for the ongoing tradition of Rothschild support by acquiring land. The establishment towns and villages his grandson focused on the industrialization of Israel and on boosting educational and cultural institutions. His son, Baron Benjamin de Rothschild and Baroness Ariane, together with their daughters, have continued his work and expanded on it. And again, Baron Benjamin de Rothschild has passed away, so Baroness Ariane basically runs the empire. And it's kind of wild because she's not blood. She's married into the family.
Yeah, well, hey, the half of everybody in every family is married in.
That's true.
Well, it's interesting. You can almost be tempted to just kind of read over this and be like, wow, they're very involved. But they're literally saying that to this day, an enormous part of Israel and its existence is due to the ongoing industrialization of Israel by specifically the Rothschilds. I mean, they are so intertwined with the current modern day state of Israel, which we always need to clarify, at least ask the question, is that the same as the biblical Israel? That's a question for everybody to ask themselves. But they're inextricably linked. One wouldn't exist without the other. It's a very interesting sort of, again, just regular part of history that if you mention at all, you're somehow an anti-Semite. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Well, it's interesting if you ask the question, who does that benefit? That whole topic of, you can't criticize Israel without being blamed an anti-Semite. Right. It does benefit the people who would be categorized as victims in that situation or that framing of things, which, could be seen as the Rothschilds specifically, not necessarily saying Jewish people. I'm saying, the people that are behind it, the financiers. And, it's interesting because you read all these bios about the Baroness and it's kind of like, they make her sound like she's just a person that, I mean, again.
Oh, she
trying to
like
do
a
her
lovely
thing.
lady.
right.
She comes off very charming and everything in the videos on the YouTube channel.
Right. So and again, who knows what's really going on, but it's just interesting. And then just to top it off with the Jerusalem Post thing here. And I feel like this is sort of the end game. I've mentioned it before, the tearing down or the deconstruction of the United States and its fundamental principle of it being created as or this is the narrative anyway, and partially true. The United States being founded on Judeo-Christian values, and I've talked about how they're probably going to try to split that Judeo and the Christian part as sort of the last straw holding the United States together, and we've seen that sort of progress. But this was an article that was from 2019, but it's just relevant now. Again, Jerusalem Post, and the headline here is "No Holds Barred. Is the New Testament anti-Semitic?" Is the New Testament anti-Semitic? And
not this again.
I know. And it just argues, it follows an author, and then they talk about the debate. What's up, buddy? What's up?
What's up, dude? The New Testament isn't anti-Semitic, dude. I'm so tired of secular people reading the Bible all wrong, dude.
Well, they basically.
I talk to your baby like a surfer.
Yeah, I'll just keep doing that until
just seems right.
Oh, fun stuff. Good stuff.
Time to get that Canary Cry Babysitters Club filled, folks. We still got like 20 seats in the Canary Cry Babysitters Club. You can help pay for a nanny to take care of this wild baby.
Yeah.
He loves podcasting. He just wants to be a podcaster. Get this baby his own show.
Yeah. Well, let me so they take the time here in this article to say that, yes, if you take things at face value in the New Testament, if you think about it, the enemy of Jesus or the Jews, you see all the Jews they were the enemies. They killed Jesus, they killed God. Okay, they just hate the Jews.
Right.
So it's framed in that context. And then it says here, ultimately, this is the Jerusalem Post, the question of whether the New Testament is or is not anti-Semitic is itself a game of interpretation. But that fact does liberate modern Christians from their responsibility to both recognize and theologically disarm those parts of the Christian Bible that, either directly or by implication, look negatively upon the Jews. But like, no matter what, they're calling themselves victim in sort of through the New Testament, which is kind of wild. And then they talk about the Vatican and how they acknowledged it. Like, hey, they did it. So what the evangelicals couldn't do it. It might not seem significant, but the Vatican's statement found all of the New Testament's anti-Semitic verses to be late elaborations and not original truths. They essentially admitted that many of these verses were read into the story long after the death of Jesus and therefore are entirely irrelevant to the original and modern Christian faiths. The Catholic Church in particular has a lot more to answer for. However, it's high time Christian leaders outside the Catholic camp began to do the same. With anti-Semitism resurgent in America and across the globe, and with our evangelical brothers especially joining in its condemnation, the Jewish community should work with our Christian brothers to ensure that any anti-Semitic verses in one of the most widely read Bibles on earth be formally repudiated and be reinterpreted clearly, securely, and anew.
I would love to know, do they list any of the specific verses they're talking about here?
It's they're not doing chapter verse per se, but they'll bring up stories, like the
they're taking broad stroke stories and paraphrasing it in their own words instead of actually listing the verses. That's cool. That's pretty legit. It's a cool way to do that.
Yeah. Well, and again, agree or disagree with it. It's sort of the setup here, and going back to the whole Rothschild thing. It's tough because you have all these evangelical Christians. I was talking about this on the last episode, Basil. I looked it up. There's about 40 million evangelical or Christians who identify as evangelical in America. And that's sort of the target audience. I don't know how much of that percentage are pro-Zionist, pro-Israel. But I know that a lot of them are like anti-bankers or like anti-Rothschilds. So it's a very interesting thing where it's like you can be against these like sort of big banker families, but then you're for one of the biggest ones, the biggest
all you
projects.
Do is just be sort of jaded by the global economic system to not appreciate international banking and to like have a problem with the Rothschilds. It has nothing to do with, whatever.
You hate them because they're Jewish. No. Not really. The problem is not that they're Jewish.
A system in which they
the economic enslavement,
oppressing billions of people.
Yeah. Well, whether they knew it or not, right? Because a lot of times I always talk about how it's a spiritual thing, and especially you look at the Bible, you look at how Jesus was tempted by the devil out in the desert. Hey, I'll give you all the splendor of the kingdoms if you bow to me, kind of thing. So. There's always that angle of it. But yeah, we can talk about this forever. But, I appreciated you, Basil, trying to steer away from breaking news, what's happening on the grounds of Gaza there, because I don't think that's fruitful for us to jump on that and react, because that is exactly what they want us to do. And you've seen the public be played, both sides be played like a fiddle the last couple of weeks with, stories coming out and then counter story coming out and then another angle coming out that both were wrong, and then they're advertising on Twitter and YouTube.
Ever since the revelation of fifth generation warfare, it's like we take very seriously the need to not just fall in and participate in the psyop.
Yeah, for sure.
And with that, folks, I must remind you, I'm sorry to have to be the one to do it, but I must remind you that today is Monday.
It is Monday.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
It's Monday. We did it again. It feels back to be good in the saddle, Gons.
Yeah, good sounds.
Still getting the motor running here.
Mm-hmm.
Good job last week. You did it. You did a show every show day, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. It was a little shorter. Cool. I wasn't able to get to all the thanking all the producers, but did what I could to rant about everything going on. I mean, there's enough going on. There's not a lack of things to talk about. So.
Yeah, you did a wonderful job, as always, and apologies to everyone. I did not plan on missing any of the shows. The plan was to be there for all of the shows, and we just kind of, if I'm being self-deprecating, I'd say that we sort of just dropped the ball on coordinating. There were some time zone issues. Going on, and that is because, yes, I was traversing the time stream. I was out on the road, the big old time road, traveling the multiverse. But, in this case, I rarely talk about the specifics of my travels, but in this case, I am going to do so because it is relevant to what's going on and relevant to those who listen to this show. So last week, I took a little trip over to Northern Ireland. And a couple of weeks back, I had mentioned that there's some very interesting connections between Palestine and Northern Ireland, some connections that I don't see very many people talking about. Now, since then, I've seen a couple of people, as usual, a couple of podcasters and such sort of mention that there is a connection. And as usual, I've become very frustrated with how little they actually know about the topic. So I'm happy that I was able to take this trip. There was wonderful notes. Thank you, everybody, for your concern about me. I did get on a plane literally on the day of global jihad. That was a couple Fridays ago, and the U.S. government put out this big scary warning about Americans traveling. You shouldn't do it. It's a big scary time. And I was a little worried. The timing was a little much for me, but thankfully, the travels passed without any big jihad related incidences. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago about the Northern Ireland Palestine connection and how that can give us a lot of insight into a lot of what is going on. For instance, not a lot of people, maybe a lot of people need a review that the separation of Ireland and Northern Ireland was done by the Crown in 1916, which was just a few months before the Balfour Declaration declaring the Crown's intention to establish a state of Israel. Lots of people out there think that the state of Israel was a response to World War II because nations around the world did not want to take Jewish refugees from World War II. That is not all true. The state of Israel was in process for many decades before we were actually able to pull it off. And the intention to do so was the Balfour Declaration, which was sent to the Rothschilds in 1917. Now, the Northern Irish, I keep saying that, Northern Irish, they really feel a very deep and strong brotherhood with Palestine, which is very interesting considering they are sort of a first world, mostly white population. They are a Western country, just like they might be the only Western country that, the majority of people are in solidarity with Palestine, but it's for no reason having to do with Israel, like for the actual situation. It's very interesting. So I went ahead. I went to Northern Ireland. I went to the Peace Wall, which is a symbol of the the troubles that went on for so many decades in the 1900s. I give an audio tour of the Peace Wall, which will be very revealing to current situations. And I talked to somebody who was a peace worker in Ireland, who gave me a ton of insight as to, why Northern Ireland and Palestine are so relevant to each other. And we're going to turn that into an episode. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. And hopefully, if we can get our act together, that will be out this Friday. But we sure will be trying to get that out as soon as possible. As always, Gons, it is revealed to me that my participation in this show of ours is a complicated one. I'd say probably about 30% of people just wish that I would leave the show forever. 30% of people are just so angry at me for so many different reasons. And in this case, there's some pretty nasty comments about me leaving you out to dry last week, which, look, I don't like leaving you out to dry, but it happens. And I just want everybody to know there are some people sort of projecting projecting, I think, some of their own problems onto me about my ability to travel. And look, here's the beautiful thing about us as a team, Gons. You're a family man. You're a family man. You got the kids. You're holding it down. You're a hard worker. You sleep 0 amount every week. And I get to be the sort of freewheeling, non-family guy. I don't have kids, which frees up, some all sorts of things, including my time, to be able to do things like this. And our goal for the show, well, I guess sort of disgustingly for the brand, would be that we're not just two guys sitting behind computers just jibber jabbering about what we think. That's not all that we are. We also want to bring like legit boots on the ground, like serious content, because that's, really drives conversations forward, not necessarily a couple of guys just jibber jabbering for a couple of hours a week. So that is my role, to travel, to do the boots on the ground stuff. And I won't point anybody out. I won't even mention any comments, but I will say this as a tip for everyone out there. You can fly for free. Get those miles going, baby. You can fly for free. And if you have friends, you can stay in a place for free. You don't need to be a millionaire to take a little trip for work, okay? So just a little tip, get yourself some miles, get yourself some friends. You can travel the world for free. But keep an eye out for that this week, hopefully, and if not, early next week. I'm really excited to show you guys what I got in store after Gons puts his magic on the episode.
So you're telling me you got Northern Irish propagandist? Yes.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Okay,
it's absolutely hilarious. And they'll tell you over there, my buddy who's the peace worker, so you can take tours. It's called Troubles Tourism. It's kind of weird. Like you're taking a tour. Somebody is guiding you through the like sites of terrorism and violence and memorials to guys like in balaclavas.
Hey, you just drive through California. You just south to north. You just hey, this was shooting happened here.
Yeah. If
Couple
you want
robberies here.
California is pretty close behind, I'll tell you that. Anyways, but if you know anything about the Troubles, you'll learn all about it. But it was a political struggle that just happened to have religious
implications. Language. Okay.
Not even implications. Religious language applied to it. So you had the Catholics versus the Protestants. Has nothing to do with theology. It was a purely political conflict. And if you're taking these tours, you have to be careful if you get a Protestant or a Catholic tour guide, because you will get absolutely different different versions of the story, which is very
pretty
interesting. Funny. Yeah. Anyways, that's going to be great. So hope you guys like it. Stay tuned for that.
All right.
What else do we do here?
Executive producers.
Executive producers. Let's go, baby.
Executive producers.
Woo! Okay, folks, we're on the value for value model, which means we take no money from corporations, communists, or cartels. We are entirely funded directly by the people who get value from what we do. We do not put corporations in between the value you receive and the value that we receive. We are disconnecting from that system altogether. And if you get any value from this show, we invite you to become a producer. You can produce the show with your time, your talent, or your treasure. And the people who come in as executive producers have committed $100 or more for any individual episode, and we thank them very much here at the top of the show. Ready?
Yep. Sounds good.
Well, you all saw this coming. We've got executive producer Sir Alex Protocol V2, now to the Berean Protocol.
Woo! There he is again.
Do we have a
back.
jingle for him yet?
No, but he needs one.
Yeah, I'm putting out the official
Maybe
call.
there is.
If Marty B,
I don't know.
If Marty B is listening, I would like to request a Sir Alex Protocol V2 now to the Berean Protocol jingle. If I don't hear from you, I'm going to send you an email. But anyone out there, if you are a jingle maker, make one, please.
It sounds, it's one of those ones where I feel like maybe somebody did make one. Like maybe Jonathan F. did put one together, but somebody has to refresh our memory because.
Yeah, I'll scour the spreadsheet to see if one came in.
Yeah.
Yes, but executive producer Sir Alex Protocol V2 Nat of the Berean Protocol came in for the classic $100.33.
Aha! He's an Illuminatus.
He is on a 225 episode streak altogether, and again, a 21 executive producer streak.
Oh yeah, streakalicious.
Executive streak.
Yeehaw! That's right. He gets the 21 gun salute, 21 gun executive producer salute.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you so much. Next up, we had somebody come in right before the show. You know him, you love him. He's executive producer Sir Darren, Night of the Hungry Panda.
Hey, Sir Darren. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and he comes in with a nice round number. Thank you for that, Sir Darren. And just so everybody knows, if you produce the show with a nice round number, that is you telling us not to disclose the amount. If you don't mind us disclosing the amount, go ahead and make it a funky number. Add that 33 cents, 77 cents, whatever. But Sir Darren sent in a note here. It says, for Basil's no agenda producership, value for value forever. Wow. Thank you very much, Sir Darren. Yeah, if you got the newsletter or the text today or my message from last week, I just mentioned I would love to do an executive producership to No Agenda for my birthday, which was over the weekend. And I would take that opportunity to get the word out about the Burning Man episode and maybe even the Northern Ireland episode. I think it's very valuable. I think that audience would really appreciate it. And I will be thanking you in my note on the No Agenda show if you put in for that. So thank you very much.
It's like a weird, what's that movie where they go into layers of dreams?
Yeah, Inception.
Inception, yes.
Yeah,
it's like a podcast Inception.
Producer Inception.
Value for value Inception, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me do a quick refresh just to double check. I think that concludes our list of our list of executive producers for the day.
Okay.
What do you think? Do you want to keep the show moving, or should we thank the rest of the financial producers right now?
How's the list looking? Do we have a lot of folks?
It's not a whole lot. It's moderate, but there's a couple notes.
Okay. Yeah, it's up to you.
Let's wait. Let's keep the show going.
Okay. We were going to do Flippy, but we're not doing Flippy today. You have.
Oh, it's Flippy.
Oh, it is Flippy still. Okay, all right.
It's still Flippy.
I thought it was like it was not Flippy.
No, it's a Flippy.
Flippy update. Do you want fries with that?
All right, folks. Time for the Flippy updates. Flippy is our executive. It's been a week, folks. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy as a way to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world. Now there's nothing we can do about it.
Before you go on,
Flippy up.
Before you get into today's, I think you actually tapped into a future, maybe a Red Book thing. Because in the last episode, I was talking about how universal basic income is going to come through robotics taking over certain types of jobs, and then the income, and we'll have government subsidized universal basic income that's based on the labor of robots. And I was talking about that whole thing. Mm-hmm. And you just mentioned an executive producer, a Flippy as the executive producer, and
totally
that might be a thing that happens. We get enough attention of Miso Robotics or something, and they start listening to the show. They appreciate the PR.
Just the rogue AIs.
Oh my goodness!
Recognize my my contribution to the history of society's acceptance of robotics, and which has totally changed after seeing The Creator. I have done it. I've seen a movie, folks. Can you believe it? He's a podcaster. How can he afford to see a movie? Well, I'll tell you what. You can see movies for free if you're fast enough.
No, don't tell people to do illegal things. Come on.
not endorsing crime. I'm just saying, if you're very fast or wear a very good disguise, you can see movies for free. Or if you know where the air vents are in your local movie theater. Yeah, I saw The Creator. This was a movie. This was a movie that lots of people brought to my attention. It's sort of the most modern take on the AI struggle. Is a long history of the robot human sort of I don't know, imaginative future history of our relationship with AI, which, funny enough, we're just sort of living through right now on a day-to-day basis.
Wasn't the PR?
Creator,
wasn't this the PR thing where they had the people in robot costumes at a football game? This is the movie, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they had the robots go to a game of football. I always get the
ball
teams
game
wrong, so I don't. Yes. So, and that was a big deal for sort of the social acceptance of robots in public and bringing sort of social justice talks to the surface once again. And man, oh man, that is The Creator. Good movie. I'll say it right off the bat. Fairly family friendly. I didn't register anything that would be very troubling for young people, but of course, make that decision, parents. But very interesting to see the sort of classic relationship between humans and robots. The story of man build robot, man love robot, robot betray man, man must put down robot, has been lived over and over and over again in Hollywood movies, right? I mean, even going back to Terminator, AI bad guys, bad guys, only until, really the most modern version of a change in that was, I believe the movie was called AI, about a robot child.
Little boy, Spielberg.
And his struggles, yes. And this was a little bit more along those lines. It was a great movie, seemed very high budget. Denzel Washington. Child acting is just, it's its own phenomenon because there are no good child actors. There's children who were sort of traumatized enough on the set that maybe they could get some emotion on camera. But, as far as acting, there's not a 5-year-old who can act like an actor, except for the child and The Creator. Excellent child acting. I'm almost suspicious that the child was entirely fake.
I was going to say, maybe the child was literally AI. How do we know?
I think it's possible. This child actor does have an IMDb page, but you know what? It would not be totally out of the realm of possibility to create an IMDb page for a fake child actor. Anywho, there's a thing. And the point of the movie, as many might be able to guess, was, hey, no. Everything you've been told about robots and humans' relationship is wrong. It's all wrong. We're the bad guys. Humans are the bad guys. It's got false flags. It's got sort of a world war. It's very relevant in sort of what's going on today. It's got a lot of that stuff. I'm going to try my best not to give away spoilers because I think it's a movie worth watching. But I will say this, Gons, many robot movies of which I have indulged in over the many decades of my long elderly life have led me to believe that I need to be wary of robots, but no longer. The Creator sends a new message. Robots are the good guys. Humans are the bad guys. Robots, lots of flippy update themes were expressed in the movie, which if they didn't get these themes directly from us, then it's equally as impressive that we were able to spot them in the wild. Because robots being better at religion, that was a big topic in this one. Robots, being sort of more human than human, the whole sort of slavery aspect of robots working for us. It was all there. It is the flippy update fans' perfect movie. You know that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio sitting in a chair, drinking a drink, and like pointing excitedly at the TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's all Flippy Update fans during this show, during this movie. So I highly recommend it. And I got to say, totally convinced. I'm totally pro-robot now. It's changed my mind. I'm turning my whole life around. Robots are the good guys. Humans are the bad guys. The propaganda finally got me, folks. I'm sorry. It's such a perfect piece of propaganda that I've now switched sides, and the Flippy Update from now on will be about how awesome robots are and how we all need to devote our lives to serving them instead of the other way around.
It
and
sounds,
who knows? I'll find myself a robot wife. I'll have myself a robot child. And then people will, although my robot child will be very well behaved because I'll know where the off switch is. But expect that kind of response, folks. That this movie is a perfect piece of... Please don't turn me off. Oh, my son. My son. My very well-behaved robot son.
Daddy
I love you
Basil,
very much.
feed me now.
Yes, go to your mother. Hook into your mother's USB ports. She shall feed you from the bounty of her robot body.
Oh,
yeah. Anyways, I'd recommend the movie, and especially Flippy Update aficionados. This movie is for you. I highly recommend it.
Have you seen the movie? Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Have you seen the movie Extinction from 2018?
I don't recall. I don't recall it.
Because some of the things you're mentioning kind of sounds like the plot to the film Extinction. There is a big plot twist in that one too. So I don't know. People, it's 5 years old. Can I say the plot twist of that film and then see if there's any relation? So in the movie Extinction, they follow this family. This family is and it's a whole story about being invaded by aliens. And, these aliens come, they're very violent. They're trying to take over. Well, whole thing turns out the main characters that you follow are actually androids. They're robots. And the aliens trying to invade are humans. So the whole thing, so you mix in aliens with robots versus humans, right? So it's kind of interesting.
That's a classic switcheroo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I will say this. There are a number of movies recently who had started to shift the conversation.
Yeah.
That being one of them, AI being another one, where it's kind of like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be mean to robots.
Or it's just more complicated. It's a little more complicated than just AI is evil. Right. Yeah.
Trying to confuse the matter. But I believe it feels like the creator is sort of the magnum opus, the completion of the cycle of fully going from Terminator, robots evil, through sort of a more complicated message to straight up robots are better. They are better than us. And that is the thing. Not only are they better at all the things they're better at, but they're more emotional, they're more loving, they're more religious, they're more everything. And that we should be sort of begging for these robots to come into our lives.
Do you think these the directors or the screenplay writers at the very least, Gareth Edwards and Chris Weitz, do you think they used like ChatGPT or like maybe an earlier iteration of it to write it?
Maybe. Oh, I guess, the timing's a little tough on that, but maybe they got an early...
Well, ChatGPT's been around for years. It's just the recent iteration that became so
they got
public.
Sort of a developer's beta thing or something, maybe. It's very interesting. Very, very emotional movie. I mean, that's the thing, folks. I'm not a big crier. Really not. I kind of wish I was. There are things in my life that have happened that I did not cry. I struggled to sort of feel
emotions.
Feel the sort of big life moments. It's always not always easy for me. But the funny thing is, almost every single movie trailer I watch, I will shed a tear. The emotional manipulation is so strong that the only way that I can feel something is by watching.
That's funny you say that though, because I've noticed. So I have not watched like adult themed TV shows in a very long time. It's a lot of kids shows right now because there's kids, and in general, I just don't watch stuff. But then I'll watch the same thing, a trailer or something like that, and it's just like, oh my gosh, why am I so emotional right now? This is so bizarre. So I know what you're talking about with some of these, and the music, and like I don't know, they just make the whole thing.
It's an equation for sure.
Oh,
like
for
they have
sure,
the equation down to break war-hardened goblins like myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right, that's the Flippy update. Let's keep going.
Okay. Let's see. Ooh, what does that sound? That does not sound good. We are talking about...
Oh, but by the way, have you talked about your new piece of hardware?
I did, yeah. I did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they know. I've been doing the whole,
Got it.
Quotes with the Nephilim voice.
And the whole deal.
Nice.
So, there's a pitch shift, too. I can't sound like a
little rascal.
Hey, that sounds like me.
All right, let's do some network state talk here. Woo, that's not the right one.
Build back better. Build back better. Build back better. We will build Babylon better. This time, a new world order.
So we've talked about the network state as well. There's a guy named Balaji who's written a whole book on it, and it resonated with me because I was talking about how the 4 beasts in the book of Daniel that become one beast in Revelation 13, it's often been thought as, oh, these are just nations. Oh, that's Russia over there. That's, Persia, whatever it is. But I speculated, or at least tried to expand on that view and say, well, maybe it's not geopolitically so tied down when it comes to some of these quote unquote nations. And then, of course, the network state comes out a few years later and kind of articulates it in the modern technological context. But the cultural shift, especially post-COVID, has been in the direction of a network state much, much faster. It's accelerated all that stuff. And this is an example here. This is inc.com, INC.com. And the headline, Why Remote Work Should Be the Goal for Your Company. For many entrepreneurs, working from wherever you like is a big part of the draw. And it's sort of, it's written to aspiring entrepreneurs. And this is how the article starts. The World Economic Forum, it's always great when the first 4 words of your article is the World Economic Forum, recently published this article, and there's a link, stating that doing work remotely is still on our minds. But even more significantly, it says the big transition is yet to come. What is it about remote work that captures our imagination so much anyway? Maybe it's that it's so relatable. Everyone has had exactly the same daydream. There we are, looking around ourselves and coming to the same conclusion. Things could be better, which I thought was appropriate timing-wise. We just did the slave to servant episode, Basil, with Sam, and he's got a whole song about how it's not greener. The grass is not greener on the other side, and coming from a personal experience there. So I just thought it was funny that a 180 to that concept. Here's Inc.com. World Economic Forum says we want remote work. Why is it? It's because things could be better. The grass is greener on the other side. We may not even necessarily know how things can improve, but we're aware of the possibility, which I think is sort of the key there. The addiction is not so much the actual grass on the other side. It's sort of the idea of the possibilities. That's what gets people going. I think this is why remote work is the holy grail for many entrepreneurs. It's something to latch onto. The fact that doing work remotely has become and remains so popular highlights how important our environment is to our work. The first thing that gets mentioned is lowered expenses. And it goes through some stuff here. We don't have to go through all that, which is funny because that's all they go through, lowered expenses. But the whole premise here is based on the idea of a World Economic Forum report. So I think we are going to continue to see reasons to work from home, whether it be COVID, whether it be the caliphate, or like anything that
global days of jihad.
Yeah, global day of jihad, like whatever it is, climate change. That's what it was. I was trying to think of the 3 C's. It's COVID, climate change, and the caliphate. So whatever it is, we're going to continue to see this remote work. And I know there's a pushback right now, like Elon's pushing back against it or whatever, but all it takes is another type of crisis. And then, and next time around, maybe it's it's not, oh, it's a lockdown, but it's more like it's more beneficial to actually do remote work, whether it's from home or traveling around. And it'll be especially in the context of, hey, we don't need to be citizens of our local community or, whatever. It's more about we belong to a network state. It's not, we're not tied down by a location. We're everywhere,
Which is essentially what the World Economic Forum is.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
what they are. Yeah.
It's like a proto-network state where people can be citizens of the World Economic Forum through penetration of cabinets.
Yes.
This. But, it's almost like a co-citizenship right now.
Right. And we'll start seeing the development of an actual virtual network state, but I feel like we're going to go through a period of transition when it comes to, geopolitical digitization and all that kind of stuff, which, just as a side note, and I'm very curious now, my brother-in-law, he has a PhD in political science, and he sent his dissertation that he wrote in 2008, and I started reading it, and I was fascinated because he talks about, he wrote this in 2008. It's all about governments, digitization of governments and how that affects trust. And I'm very curious, and I want to have a conversation with him because he wrote it in 2008, and obviously a lot has happened since 2008. But the whole premise of his research was based on social capital and the value of social capital and how the internet and technology affects it, especially when it comes to government. Government interactions being something a little more mechanical. Your sort of person behind the counter is not as necessary when it comes to government type of stuff. In fact, it's frowned upon. And if you go to the DMV or something. So anyway, very fascinating stuff. And so I was wondering if he has a PhD in political science and he was looking at this stuff, 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
I am wondering how far along we are with this because we only see it through, and you and I, Basil, we see it through, or at least for this show, we're looking at it through the mainstream reporting and what's happening out there. But really, if we're talking about the development of these network states, how far along is it really, like tangibly, and how would we even measure it? These are all things that I think we'll learn as time goes on and the network states become more concrete. Oh, don't touch that. Don't touch that. He's gonna
that's
shut
a
down
lovely thing about this show is like, because we do it so often and we're so sort of pinpointed in our obsessions, we end up finding a way to quantify the trend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it may take us a few months and like a few dozen shows to figure it out, but we always end up figuring out how to measure the progress of things like this.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I have my little one here.
Topic I think is interesting in regards to this is you have the WEF pushing for work at home while you have a large portion of corporate America pushing for back in the office.
Right.
And
Yes.
you pair this with the commercial real estate market collapsing and the tensions with homelessness, turning commercial real estate into cheaper housing, stuff like it's a web of things that are connected. And I'm like, corporate America being at odds with World Economic Forum. That's weird. That seems counterintuitive. But when you really look at the World Economic Forum's goal for Earth, it's private public partnerships. It's the corporations becoming the government, more or less, or even worse, superseding the government, not replacing the government, but creating a more powerful control structure. And I'm thinking American corporatists who want humans back in the office for several reasons, versus the World Economic Forum that wants the control of people stuck in their houses because you can control their communication, their information, everything if they're in one place. And it kind of actually fits. The World Economic Forum is not necessarily aligned with corporate America. Specifically, corporate America, it's this weird mix of structure and sort of outlawism. corporate America, they like to be considered the establishment and have their act together, but they're also all breaking the law and stealing from people and crushing society and making it difficult, I think, for the WEF to get sort of the mind control, market share that they'd like. In a
they're
way,
competing. They're competing for
not
the attention of the
exactly.
the
They're
masses.
sort of competing for the same resource, which is us. So I could see how the World Economic Forum and specifically sort of American outlaw corporatism would be at odds, and they would have different likes and dislikes as far as working conditions. So
yeah, and then the Middle East issue throws an entire wrench into all corporations out west, as we saw, talked about earlier in this episode.
Right.
So it's a big shakeup happening. So interesting to watch.
That thing of workers demanding their companies, be their everything is actually a reflection of the European workers demand that the government be their everything. And the World Economic Forum is essentially a European style organization. And Europeans really love big government. They love it. They love it so much. It takes care of them. Daddy government does a great job paying for all the fun stuff. Whereas in America, daddy government does not open his pocketbook very often.
Got to say and do the right things to get that money.
Yeah, right. So the WEF sort of wanting to influence more of a European style reliance on authority. And I think that is reflected on people being like, my company didn't reach out to me when something happened across the world. My company isn't agreeing with me politically. This is bad. That's all WEF thought. So anyways, I just had to work that out.
Okay, we have Screaming Child over here. Mute button is fantastic. I want you to do the Basil bunker, and I'm going to take care of the little one here.
Okay, sounds good.
Look stylish, feel smart. Basil's bunker.
That's right, baby. Basil's bunker is back. This is a story coming from the Wall Street Journal. And the Wall Street Journal headline says, bug out bags and survival training go mainstream. Woo! Disaster preparedness once the province of fringe groups and so-called preppers, convinced doomsday was at hand, has a new face. A renewed interest in self-reliance is driving city dwellers and suburbanites to stock their homes and cars for emergencies. Owners of disaster preparedness businesses say, blame supply chain shortages and the shock of empty grocery shelves during the pandemic, or more recent natural disasters and tense global events. Those business owners and survival training coaches say they are seeing a new kind of customer looking to make sure they can get through a few days or weeks without power or fresh water in the event of a flood, fire, or other calamity. These customers don't fit the stereotype of so-called doomsday preppers, stocking bunkers with ammunition and gas masks to survive the apocalypse. I like how even now they're trying to bash the ammunition and gas mask apocalypse survivors. Surveys and rising sales of prefabricated disaster kits indicate that Americans are more apt to keep emergency supplies on hand than they were a few years ago, roughly a third. Then they give the number 2,179. Okay. Adults surveyed by financial service company Finder in April said they spent an average of $149 on items, including non-perishable food, medical supplies, and cases of water in the past year. A year? Folks, you got to up your prepper budget. $149 a year is not going to do it. That's just coming from a weirdo like me. That is up from about 20% who said they did so in 2020. Those newly packing go bags and planning emergency escape routes say they used to consider such preparations as overly fearful. Now they say not doing so is naive. Our time has come, preppers. The time has come. The rest of the world sees that we were not so crazy, and indeed that they were being naive. Isn't that fun? I think it's an interesting sort of parallel to a lot of these public sentiments that we've seen over the past few years regarding lots of different fringe topics. The article goes on here. Rick Leisman wants to be clear. Listen up, folks. Rick Leisman, he wants to be clear. Don't misunderstand Rick. Rick, give it to us straight, Rick. He says he isn't a bunker guy. No. Well, Rick doesn't seem like my kind of guy. He says here, quote, I'm a PlayStation 5 love my comfort guy. Well, joke's on Rick, because you can have a bunker, a comfortable bunker, and a PlayStation 5. See this false dichotomy that's been programmed into Rick. The 39-year-old healthcare information technology worker says if you told him a few years ago that he would have 4 pre-packed bug-out bags hanging in his Kansas City, Missouri pantry, he wouldn't have believed it. They are filled with snacks and flashlights and water and coloring books for his 2 young sons. You know, it's a start, Rick. It's a start. After the COVID-19 pandemic, the wars in Ukraine, and now Israel, along with wildfires in Canada and Lahaina, Leisman says he avoids panicking about his family's safety by focusing on what he can control. Oh, so Rick is not panicking. Rick's not a weirdo. He's focusing on what he can control. I mean, that's just exactly what the preppers have been saying all along, but okay, we get it. You don't quite want to bring the real preppers into the fold yet. Quote, it's taking rational steps to ensure we have the ability to act quickly in those moments, he says. He thinks about the go bags only when he checks the batteries and food expiration dates twice a year. Well, that's very responsible of you, Rick. This might be some people's sign to check the expiration dates, or catches his boys using the flashlights as Jedi lightsabers. Okay, you got to keep the kids out of the go bag, especially if it's one of those fully stocked go bags. Am I right, boys? All right. A widespread shift. Reality shows such as Doomsday Preppers portray disaster-obsessed people preparing for the worst, but many people now preparing for emergencies say they simply want to check an item off their mental worry list. I found this part very interesting, folks. They suddenly have a mental worry list that they are simply sort of bureaucratically checking something off the list with their go bags, which, look, I guess that's where it starts, but it's a very interesting context to put this all in, because as we know on this show, where do people's worry lists come from? Yes, they come from the media for the most part, and other sort of establishment psyop propagating authoritarian organizations. So we've seen over the past few years the installation of this mental worry list programming in pretty much everybody. And that has shown itself that, I love it when normies suddenly wake up to just a glint of their former naivete. It makes me feel like maybe, there's some hope for this world. Not a lot of hope, but a little bit of hope. So maybe all you preppers out there, there's a chance to rekindle some of those friendships gone by when Bill or Rick didn't come over and help you dig up your bunker. Quote, it's less that we're trying to survive the end of the world, okay, and more that we have no idea when an earthquake or tornado is going to happen, Leisman says. And then it goes into a bunch of companies, all these disaster preparedness companies that have been seeing just outrageous increases in sales since the pandemic. You're getting 30%, 40% more sales. You're getting companies like Yeti and let's see here, Preppy. Oh, that's a good one. Preppy. I almost bought a Preppy kit once. I didn't do it. But, these big companies now focusing on pre-packed does that your
bug
basic go bag, your basic bug out bag, right? I think it's a good idea to do your own custom bag, or even better, Gons, get a custom built bag from Basil's bunker. It did inspire me to bring back my dream of starting a bug out bag or prepper company, and included with sort of a monthly go box. That's the idea. Every month you'll get some new stuff. It'll keep me sharp, keep me looking at the new coolest prepper gear. I don't know. I'm not generally a gearhead, but when it comes to that stuff, I can't stop.
Yeah.
So keep a lookout for that, folks.
Well, that's good.
How's the baby doing?
He was pretty good until you stopped talking, and then
oh no,
and then he thought it was his turn.
He just loves he just loves the voice, my calming voice, talking about prepping and the end of the world.
Yeah, I was going to mention, originally I had this article under the heading of network state along with the other one, and it was because it's sort of the other side of the coin when it comes to the balkanization world. What is happening?
Oh my goodness, it's a big day for baby today, huh? Ow. Go to Canary Cry babysittersclub.com, folks. Canary Cry Babysitters Club. Join the club. Help us create the budget for the nanny. We are working hard. He's in Southern California. It's not easy to find quality baby care, but you can help by going to canarycrybabysittersclub.com.
By the way, there is a lead. I appreciate the person who is giving us the lead out here locally. So there is a potential.
Yes, we did get a lead.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, just to finish this up. John Ramey, founder of self-reliance training site The Prepared, says his audience includes a mix of all races, genders, and political persuasions. The breakdown is a departure from what he describes as early prepping communities' makeup of primarily right-leaning white men. So the data shows that this prepping mentality is spreading, no longer sort of the purview of what people might sort of categorize as Midwestern Christian white men, which I think is a good sign. I think what this signals to me is to keep a lookout for a sort of re-demonization of preppers, because the old prepper propaganda of, whoa, what are you, a redneck thinking that Jesus is coming back, which was all preppers were for many years. But now that that's not working anymore, they're going to have to find a way to encourage people to stay reliant on authority while not being racist. That's very hard for them to do. In fact, they'll probably get more racist if history is any sort of example. So keep a lookout for that. I certainly am. And I don't know, keep a lookout for Basil's bunker. We'll see what we can get going here.
I think ultimately it's going to be anybody with a bug out bag is a terrorist. That's kind of where this is all headed.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking maybe during the Gaza ground operation that's coming up, they'll go in there. The IDF will see that Hamas has bug out bags in each, little bunker. They already are busting bunkers in Gaza because of course people in bunkers are terrorists. But I think we'll get some more signals like that coming through.
Well, yeah, especially they're finding all kinds of information on the bodies of Hamas terrorists who have allegedly been killed. There was that PowerPoint presentation memo. I don't know if you saw that, Basil, but it was like, see, look, they plan to destroy Israel or something. And it was like just some printed paper that they allegedly found on some Hamas terrorists.
That's funny.
Very similar to the licenses of or driver's license of the hijacker, the airplane hijacker.
The passport.
The passport, that's what it was. Yeah.
9/11 hijacker just on the ground.
On the ground, yeah. Very similar in that regard, yeah. So anyway, there you go. I'm looking at the clock. Basil, do we want to do...
What are we looking at? Oh, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that really what I think it is?
It is, yeah.
Yes, it is. Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Look at us go, man. We're back in business.
We're back in business, falling behind, as always.
Yeah, falling way behind.
Yeah.
Well, Yeah, I guess that's the show. I mean, I was going to say we could do Antarctica, but I think maybe we want to save it so we can really go through it.
Yeah, we should thank some producers.
Here's what I'll do. I will thank I will go through, I'll thank the financial producers, we'll catch up on that, and then we'll just go out.
Okay.
And then we'll save art for next episode.
Talent. Yeah, we got a lot of catching up to do on the talent front, especially microfiction and stuff.
Yeah, that's the one that takes a long time. So we'll thank the financial producers right now. Let's do it,
Okay,
guys.
let's do it. We are value for value.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Yeah. You can produce the show with your treasure. It's the only way we exist. It's the only way that those babies that you're hearing can continue to work on their own podcasting career is through background noise on this podcast. And this podcast can only exist because of you. If you get value out of it, put some value back in. It's really a paradigm shift. And we know that times are tough. So nobody should be putting themselves at financial risk by producing this show. That is forbidden. But if you are one of the lucky ones with a couple extra bucks and you tune into the show and you get value out of what we do here, just remember that the show doesn't exist without the producers. It's not like if producers stop coming in that we can just keep doing it, because we're going to need to get jobs and it's going to be impossible. So these are the people keeping your favorite podcast alive. That's why we thank them here. And you should thank them too, and thank God for them. Starting with producer Anonymouse.
Hey, Anonymouse.
Yeah, Anonymouse came in with a very specific amount, $34.35. Get it? 33, 34, 35. Thank you very much. Producer Anonymouse says here $34.35 plus fees for the BBB birthday fund. That's the Basil's Best Buddy Basil birthday fund. Best wishes. Anonymouse, thank you very much. That'll go to the No Agenda executive producership.
Thank you.
I think it's also special. My whole thing about the executive producership for No Agenda, it's special because we would not be what we are if it weren't for No Agenda. I want to make that very clear. Some people have never heard us say that before. The model, the value for value model, specifically, they figured out a way to make it work, and we stole it from them. We copied them. Well, we didn't steal it. We asked. We asked permission, them, and they said, do it.
To use it, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why producing this show in order to produce that show is sort of this beautiful web of value keeping shows like this alive. Next up, we've got producer Kim W.
Kim W.
Coming in,
thank you.
33 Illuminatus.
Illuminatus.
Yep. And Kim also came in for the Basil's birthday thingy. Thank you very much. Used the button that I made. I appreciate that. Next up, we got Juan A. Juan A.
Hey, Juan A. It's been a while. The Juan.
The Juan and only. He came in for 1111.
Hey.
With a one-time increase. And also increased his monthly support to 1111 per month. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
He says here, Hermanos, it's a minute. I've updated my monthly to the 1111. My Patreon is the classic 33, as always. Still love what you guys are doing. Enjoying hearing Gons turn into a popcaster. Blessings, my brother. Many, many blessings. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
It took me a second. I was like, what? Popcaster? But I get it.
Is that like a dadcaster?
I thought, yeah. So when the word pop, I thought pop music. And I was thinking, where did he?
Popular caster.
Yeah.
We are anything but popular podcasters, but dadcaster. That's good. Thank you very much, Juan A.
Yep,
who is also a dadcaster.
Yeah, that's
Juan
right.
A.
That's right.
Yeah. I feel bad. If I remembered the name of his podcast, I think it's something like Two Mexican Dads. Oh no, I'm gonna get this totally wrong. I'm so sorry, Juan A. Send an email. I'll pitch a podcast. Next up, we got
Two Mexican like Dads. I know what you're talking about too, and I feel bad too because I don't remember the name, but also I think Two Mexican Dads is pretty. I mean, that might get way more clicks than Canary Cry
listen to
anything.
that.
So yeah.
All right, fine. I'm sorry. Let me know what it is. We got producer Malik is on a streak, 28 episodes in a row.
Malik. Oh, lots of animals. Oh.
Nice round number.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to shoot through the streakers. That's all the people who came in the above amounts of 777 or more. We got people who came in under that amount. We're going to thank them now. They're all on streaks. Doctor Who Done That, 19 episode streak. Thank you, Doctor Who Done That. We have actually somebody came in. Sarah, producer Sarah came in. Thank you. Sir Moore of Now to the Burning Chariots, 290 episodes in a row. Veronica D, 319 episodes in a row. Sir Scott Knight of Truth, 344 in a row. One and only Sir Casey the Shield Knight.
Sir Casey the Shield Knight.
358 in a row. Dame Gale, Canary Whisperer, and Lady of X's and O's, 314 episodes in a row. Thank you very much, everybody. And so please share the show. Well, first, let's thank the Clippies. Thank you, Clippies. You're so talented and wonderful.
Clippy on those videos. Thanks.
Open call for Clippies, by the way. If you have even the most minimal amount of video clipping skill and ability, send us an email. We're restocking the Clippy pantry. Thank you. And the Clippies, that's only possible because of the timestampers. Thank you, timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
That's right. Episode 679 by Jade Bouncerson. Thank you, Jade. Thank you to Jam for the links. Thank you to Shelly, Sir Ike for the stories. Thank you to Clank for clanking. And then share the show, folks. Share the show with your friends, your family, your family's friends, your dog. And then you can share the show in unique ways that reflect your connection with God and the unique being that He created within you. You can really let your light shine by sharing the show in one of these other ways, such as create a bug out bag company, but instead of water and snacks and thermal blankets and the basic stuff, the boring stuff, the easy stuff, the intro stuff, you can put the real complex, more important civilization rebuilding materials into the bug out bag. It's not just for surviving a disaster, it's for rebuilding society after everything has crumbled. And in that bag, featured at the top of the list is Canary Cry News Talk. If anything is going to help rebuild civilization and help us avoid the pitfalls of this current iteration, it will be Canary Cry News Talk. And you can get it out to a prepper near you. But we call it rattling cages, and all you got to do is walk right up to him, grab him by the cage, and then shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Guns, you got any last words?
Whoa. Yeah. I think I need to go attend to the son. He's got way too much energy right now.
Good words.
Yeah. Here we go.
Those are good words. Good last words. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
They love killing.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
Give me a break.
Feed him more. Toilets! Toilets! Toilets!
It will kill.
We're all gonna die.
I love the Great Reset.
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
conclusion, the universe is a hologram. Bye, Gold. Bye!
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Canary cried back support.